started small. At first, I thought I had simply miscounted. An online order or two missing from the porch didn't seem like a big deal. Packages do get lost after all. Delivery services make mistakes. Maybe a driver marked an item as delivered when it hadn't been. That was the excuse I gave myself the first time, and the second. But by the third missing package, I knew something was wrong. My house sat in a quiet, suburban neighborhood, the kind of place people imagine is safe. Rows of trimmed lawns, neatly painted houses, and neighbors who waved politely but rarely stayed long enough for conversation. It was the kind of street where nothing exciting was supposed to happen. That's why the missing deliveries bothered me so much. They didn't fit the picture. At first, I double-checked with delivery companies. They all gave the same answer. According to their systems, my packages had been dropped off, scanned, and confirmed. Photos of the boxes left on my porch backed it up. But when I opened my door hours later, the porch was empty. The first missing package was just a set of phone chargers. The second, a small kitchen tool I ordered. But the third was different. It was a gift, something I had bought for my younger brother. That was when the frustration turned into anger. It wasn't about the value of the items anymore. It was about someone trespassing, someone brazen enough to walk onto my porch in broad daylight and take what wasn't theirs. The neighbors had their suspicions. A few mentioned seeing an unfamiliar car parked near the street in recent weeks. Others said they noticed movement at odd times of the day, but no one had concrete proof. And in a place where most people kept their heads down, no one wanted to get involved. That's when I started paying attention. I adjusted my daily routine, checking my porch more often. I ordered a cheap camera online, set it up discreetly by the window, and aimed it toward the front step. My plan was simple. Catch whoever was doing this, then confront them. I thought I would finally get peace of mind. The camera worked, but the results shocked me. The thief wasn't a stranger. It wasn't someone sneaking in from another neighborhood. It was someone much closer to home. The footage showed a woman, dressed neatly, walking straight up to my porch and lifting a box without hesitation. She didn't look around nervously. She didn't run. She acted as if she had every right to take it. And the worst part? I recognized her instantly. She lived 2 houses down. Her name was Karen. Everyone knew her. She had lived in the neighborhood longer than most and carried herself like she owned it. She was the type who reported people to the HOA for leaving trash cans out too long. She made passive-aggressive comments about lawns that weren't perfectly green, and she had a reputation for sticking her nose into everyone's business. But package theft? That was new. I watched the footage again and again, and there was no doubt. Karen was the one. The discovery left me conflicted. I could have gone straight to the police, but part of me wanted to handle it differently. Calling law enforcement seemed too formal, too final. Besides, I didn't want to ignite a neighborhood war unless I had to. Still, I couldn't ignore it either. She had crossed a line, and I needed to do something about it. I decided to start with more evidence. One video might be brushed off as a mistake or a misunderstanding. Maybe she would claim she was just holding the package for me. So I ordered more items. Nothing expensive, just enough to see what would happen. And sure enough, each time the box vanished, and Karen was the one caught on camera carrying it away. The more I watched, the angrier I became. She had no shame. She acted like my porch was her personal shopping mall, picking and choosing what she wanted. And she always did it when the street was quiet, never when cars were passing or kids were playing outside. She knew exactly what she was doing. By the time I had 3 separate clips of her stealing, my patience was gone. I didn't just want the packages back. I wanted her to pay for it. I wanted her to feel the frustration and violation she had caused me. That was when the idea of a trap started forming in my mind. It wouldn't be enough to confront her with evidence. People like Karen always had excuses. She'd probably deny it, twist the story, maybe even try to make me look bad. No, I wanted proof so undeniable that she couldn't escape it. Something so humiliating that the neighborhood would finally see her for what she really was. So I began planning. I thought about what kind of package I could leave on my porch. Something that looked tempting enough to steal, but useless once she took it. Maybe something that would embarrass her, something she couldn't explain away. The plan grew clearer in my head each day. Every time I walked past my empty porch, I pictured her reaching for the decoy box. Eve. The plan grew clearer in my head each day. Every time I walked past my empty porch, I pictured her reaching for the decoy box. Every time I saw her car parked in front of her house, I imagined the look on her face when the trap finally snapped shut. By then, it wasn't just about the packages anymore. It was about principle, about sending a message. Karen had taken advantage of my trust, my patience, and my property. It was time she learned that some neighbors weren't so easy to push around. And with each step of the plan I prepared, I knew I was getting closer to the moment she would regret ever stepping onto my porch. But what I didn't realize then was that this wasn't just going to be about a stolen package or a neighborhood feud. This was about to spiral into something much bigger, something that would shake the entire street and leave Karen's reputation in ruins. The trap was set in motion. All I had to do was wait. The first step was finding the perfect bait. It couldn't be too obvious, and it couldn't be too valuable. If I placed a random cardboard box with nothing inside, Karen might not bite, but if I chose something too expensive, I'd be risking losing more money if she somehow got away with it. The balance had to be just right, tempting enough to lure her in, but meaningless once taken. I started by saving shipping boxes from my recent orders. I had plenty thanks to the number of times I had tested her before. I picked a medium-sized one, big enough to look important but light enough to carry easily. Then I filled it. Not with electronics, not with clothes, not with anything worth stealing. Instead, I packed it full of trash. Old newspapers, crumpled paper bags, and a few plastic bottles. Just enough weight to make it feel like something substantial, but nothing of real value. To sell the illusion, I sealed it neatly with tape and printed a fake shipping label I created on my computer. It looked official, complete with barcodes and a return address. From the street, it would look just like any other package left by a delivery driver. I even scuffed the box a little to make it look handled. But a simple decoy wasn't enough. I needed evidence. Something that went beyond the small security camera by my window. I upgraded my setup. I ordered a real outdoor security camera with night vision and motion detection, and I mounted it in a spot she couldn't easily see. I also set up a second angle just in case she tried to argue about the first one. This time, there would be no denying it. With everything ready, I placed the box on the porch early in the morning, timed perfectly so that it would be visible when Karen left her house. Then I waited. The hours passed slowly. I found myself checking the camera feeds every few minutes, heart pounding every time a car drove by. I imagined her seeing the package, her greedy curiosity pulling her closer. And then, just as I predicted, it happened. In the early afternoon, Karen appeared on the camera. She walked casually down the sidewalk, pretending to be out for some air. Her eyes darted toward my porch, scanning quickly before she approached. There was no hesitation. She walked up, glanced around once, and lifted the box. Her face lit up, as if she had just scored some prize. She tucked it under her arm and walked back toward her house with the same calm arrogance she had shown before. I watched the footage, jaw clenched. It was almost satisfying seeing her fall for the bait so easily. But it wasn't enough. She had stolen it, yes, but that was only part of my plan. That night I checked the cameras again. She had carried the box straight into her garage, not realizing it was filled with nothing but junk. I could only imagine the look on her face when she finally opened it. But even then, I wasn't satisfied. Because knowing Karen, she wouldn't admit defeat. She'd probably hide the evidence, throw away the box, and pretend nothing happened. So I went one step further. The next day, I placed another package. This one was different. Instead of trash, I filled it with something special. Glitter. Not the kind used for crafts. This was industrial-grade glitter, the kind that clings to skin, hair, and fabric no matter how hard you try to wash it off. I packed it into a spring-loaded container, rigged carefully so that the moment the box was opened it would explode in a cloud of sparkling chaos. Setting it up took patience. I wanted to make sure it worked flawlessly, so I tested smaller versions first. The results were messy, but perfect. A single puff of glitter filled the air, coating everything in sight. Once it touched a surface, it was nearly impossible to clean completely. That was the trap Karen wouldn't see coming. On the morning I placed it out, I felt a nervous excitement. This wasn't just about catching her now. It was about giving her a consequence she couldn't hide from. Even if she tried to deny stealing it, the glitter would betray her. It would cling to her clothes, her house, her car. Everyone would see it. Sure enough, by the afternoon, she took the bait again. The footage showed her walking confidently to the porch, picking up the box without hesitation. She carried it home as if it were her right. I didn't even need to see the aftermath to know what would happen next. Later that evening, as I glanced out my window, I noticed something strange. A faint shimmer in the air near her front door. Then I saw her, stepping outside briefly. Her sweater sparkled in the fading sunlight, tiny flecks of glitter catching the light. I couldn't stop myself from smiling. The trap had sprung perfectly. By the next day, word began to spread. A neighbor across the street mentioned noticing glitter all over Karen's front step. Someone else said her car seats looked like they had been dusted with sparkles. Karen herself looked flustered, brushing at her clothes as she walked to the mailbox. The more she tried to hide it, the more obvious it became. It was exactly the kind of humiliation I had hoped for. Quiet, undeniable, and impossible to explain. She couldn't accuse anyone without admitting what she had done. She couldn't clean it up without leaving a trail. And, most importantly, the cameras had captured every second of it. But as satisfying as it was, I knew it wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to back down quietly. The embarrassment might sting, but she wouldn't just let it go. She would retaliate. That was her nature. And I was right, because only days after the glitter trap, things in the neighborhood began to change. Small, subtle at first, but enough to make me realize Karen wasn't done playing games. The battle between us had only just begun. Karen's retaliation had made one thing very clear. She wasn't going to stop. The glitter trap had humiliated her, but instead of backing down, she had shifted her focus. Now, it wasn't just about stealing packages, it was about punishing me. The HOA letters, the petty harassment, the rumors, those were her weapons. But what she didn't realize was that every move she made only gave me more determination to end this once and for all. I knew that one final trap wouldn't just have to embarrass her, it would have to expose her completely. Not only to me, but to the entire neighborhood, the HOA board, and even the authorities if necessary. She had turned this into a war of reputations, and the only way to win was to make the truth undeniable. So I designed my last move carefully. This time, the bait package wasn't filled with glitter or trash. It was packed with something far more strategic. A GPS tracker. Small, discreet, and perfectly legal. Once activated, it would ping its location to my phone every few seconds. It didn't matter where she took it, her house, her car, or even to a friend's place. the tracker would reveal the truth. Alongside the GPS, I installed a hidden dye pack inside the box. Nothing dangerous, just a simple packet of indelible ink used by some banks to tag stolen goods. The moment the package was opened, the dye would spray across the contents and the thief's hands, leaving behind a bright stain that couldn't be scrubbed away quickly. It was the perfect marker, visible, undeniable, and humiliating. I placed the package on the porch in the early afternoon, positioned squarely in view of my upgraded cameras. It looked like a delivery anyone would want. Plain, brown cardboard, sealed tightly with a fake shipping label attached. From the sidewalk, it appeared completely ordinary. And once again, just like clockwork, Karen appeared. She didn't hesitate. She didn't sneak. She strolled right up the walkway, scooped the box into her arms, and walked back toward her house with that same careless confidence. I watched through the cameras, my phone already buzzing with the first GPS signal. The package was moving. Minutes later, the signal stopped. The tracker confirmed exactly what I already knew. The package was inside her house. The cameras had her on film. The GPS had her location. And soon the dye pack would provide the final piece of evidence. Later that evening, the neighborhood began buzzing. People noticed Karen outside, her hands stained with bright red ink. She tried to hide them under gloves, but the smudges on her clothes gave it away. Whispers spread quickly, connecting the dots between the glitter incident, her sudden complaints, and now this. It was no longer just suspicion. The evidence was piling too high to ignore. I compiled everything into a neat folder. The videos, the timestamps, the GPS tracking logs, the photographs of her stained hands. I printed copies of the HOA letters she had sent me, highlighting the baseless accusations. I wanted the full story laid out clearly. And then I made my move. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up with the folder in hand. Karen was there too, sitting smugly with her usual air of superiority. She expected to control the room, as she always did. But this time, I wasn't there to argue about lawn heights or porch lights. I was there to expose her. I handed the evidence to the board, one piece at a time. First, the security footage of her stealing. Then, the GPS logs. Then, photos of her stained hands from the dye pack. By the time I finished, the room was silent. Neighbors who had believed her rumors stared at her with disbelief. Board members whispered to each other, shaking their heads. For once, Karen had no words. Her denial crumbled under the sheer weight of proof. There was no excuse she could twist, no story she could spin. She had been caught in the act, over and over again, and the entire neighborhood had witnessed her downfall. The board acted swiftly. She was fined heavily for theft and harassment, stripped of her position on the HOA, and warned that any further misconduct would result in legal action. Word spread through the community like wildfire, and the reputation Karen had clung to for years disintegrated overnight. The petty queen of the block had been dethroned. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood atmosphere changed. People who had once avoided me now came up to apologize, admitting they had believed Karen's lies. Some even thanked me for standing up to her, saying they had been targets of her bullying too, but had never had the courage to fight back. As for Karen, she became a shadow of her former self. The woman who once strutted around with authority now hurried past neighbors without making eye contact. The porch where she used to gossip with passers-by now stayed empty, and though she still lived only 2 houses away, it was as if she no longer belonged to the community she had tried so hard to control. For me, the victory wasn't just about packages anymore, it was about principle, about proving that bullies, no matter how powerful they seem, can be brought down with patience, evidence, and a little creativity. The glitter had humiliated her. The dye pack had marked her. But the truth, that was what destroyed her. And in the end, justice wasn't delivered by the police, or the HOA, or even the neighborhood gossip chain. It was delivered right on my porch, in the same place where it had all begun. The porch she had once treated as her personal shopping mall. The porch where she thought she could take without consequence. The porch where I set the trap that ended it all. Karen learned the hard way that stealing from your neighbors always comes back to haunt you. And for me, I finally got my packages back. Not the ones she stole, but something even better. I got back my peace of mind